It is statistically impossible for me to be here, but I am, and this is what I realized. That disability is not the problem, but our sterile definition of beauty is. Close your eyes for just a minute, I promise. And think of Stevie Wonder. Yes, Stevie Wonder, the singer from the 70s. Do you think disabled? Normal? Or do you hear, "Isn't she lovely?" A hit single that sold 10 million copies in just the US alone, and think, "That's a really great song"? Okay, you can open your eyes now. Or think of Frida Kahlo, the Mexican painter with polio, spina bifida, and severe chronic pain. Do you think disabled? Normal? Or do you see her self-portraits, her raw, bleeding, visceral self-portraits that pierce you like 1,000 thorns in the neck, and think, those are beautiful? Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. This was said by Stephen Hawking. Now, what do you think of? Disabled? Normal? Or do you think of that his theory on black holes is probably the most mind-blowing thing you've read in a while? Of an intelligence so vast that it reshaped our very notions and understanding of the universe itself. Now, you're probably thinking, where do I fit into all this? Well, I'm Greta Caravita. I'm 16 years old, a grade 10 student here at BIS, and I firmly believe that every single one of us has the power to shape society. To prove this, here's a fun fact about me you didn't expect. I have glute transporter type 1 deficit syndrome, a rare genetic disease with an occurrence of 1 in 91,000 that hinders glucose metabolization of the cells. Now, I'm not going to walk you through all of the numerous effects of this disease, because I'm not here to give you a science lesson. I know you've already had far too many of those. But I am here today to tell you why it matters. This is me, at 9 months old, holding a piece of bread for what will likely be the first and last time in my life. You see, I loved food. I still do. So having a disease that didn't permit me to eat such a widespread type of food, especially one so important to my pizza, spaghetti, Italian culture, felt like, I'll be honest with you, it felt like an insult or bad karma, whatever you want to call it. But every time I saw someone eat a food that I couldn't eat, I felt a tad bit jealous. I have this one particular memory. I was 8, I think. And me and my friend were out in the park when we ran into some of our other friends who were older than us, and they had a bar of chocolate. You know, one of those really large ones wrapped in purple packaging. So everyone had a good time, laughed, eating bits of the chocolate. Everyone except for me. Now, don't get me wrong, those 2 girls were really nice, but every time the smell of that chocolate wafted into my nose, I kid you not, my mouth started to water a bit, but obviously, I couldn't eat it. And I guess I remember this particularly well because that was the first time I realized that there was something different about me. And the way I saw it at the time, yeah, differences are pretty, but they can never be beautiful. That was the way I thought for a long time. Years, to be exact. Years I spent dissociating from it, keeping it hidden, pretending it wasn't even there. But it did no good. And growing up, I realized that there was nothing I could do to change it. It was intrinsically a part of me. So there's no use complaining, is there? This mindset was eye-opening for me because it allowed me to see the positives of my condition, that I was diagnosed objectively early, as people with my same disease up until that point got diagnosed in their late teens or sometimes even later. That the fact that I was diagnosed early also allowed me to start the diet early, which enabled me to live a great life, despite the medical bureaucracy labeling me as disabled, despite the quite frankly statistical impossibility of my standing here and speaking to you today. And when I think about how far I came from when I was first diagnosed at 1 year old, I think, wow, my life is really beautiful. I always found beauty in a life well lived, and lived for yourself at that. When I was younger, and even now I still do, I would watch movies where the main character was a strong, independent woman who didn't give a second thought to the opinions of those around her, like Skeeter in The Help, or Mulan. And I remember thinking, wow, I want to be like that. So, growing older and becoming more aware of my condition, I searched for movies where the main character was a strong woman who also had a genetic disease or some other kind of disability. I didn't find any, or at least not any with optimistic narratives. Indeed, when we talk about disability, it's almost always in a negative or pitying light, with words such as barriers, failings, inclusion, exclusion, and our good old friend bias. I often notice this when viewing and analyzing other TED Talks about disability. But I ask you, can we not raise the bar? Can we not see all the beauty we owe to the world, all thanks to disabled people? It's here that I must ask something of you, ladies and gentlemen. I ask that you see the world like how I see it every day. I ask that you stay a bit more humble, so the applause never fails to take you as a surprise. I ask that you stay grounded, to work with what you have, even if it's the least desirable option. Live your life in accordance with your values. Real ones, I mean, not the ones other people think you should have or what you compare against them. And most importantly, I'm asking you to just stay humble and human enough to constantly be in awe of what the world offers you. Find hope instead of limits, because that, ladies and gentlemen, that is what makes the world go round. My condition makes it a bit hard for me to navigate the outside world, but I don't dwell on it and always try to make the most of the opportunities that are available to me, because it's where you least expect it that life gets all the more interesting. Today's world is ruled by AI and technology, flooded with hit-and-run relationships and defined by superficiality. And it's this attitude that would essentially make you the modern equivalent of the late 1970s punk rockers. Seriously, in a world defined by code, cash, and casualness, this mindset is one of the most powerful things you can have. And it was already proven that accepting the beauty of differences is what allows us to grow as a society. Multiple studies show that companies with women in top leadership positions are up to 33% more productive than those being led by men. I repeat, 33% more productive than those being led by men. And for context, a woman leading a company was unthinkable up until the mid-20th century. And while I was reading this, a question began to take root in my mind. Could the same principle be applied to people with disabilities? Could they make the world more empathetic and therefore contribute to the beauty of society, just like women did with company productivity? In my humble opinion, they can. And it's not just an opinion, the facts say this as well. As a 2018 study by Accenture reported, who interviewed 364 companies all across the US, those that meet or exceed the DEI, or Disability Equality Index, yield 1.6 times more revenue, 2.6 times more net income, and 2 times more economic profit. Why? Well, because they know what it's like to live in a world that's not designed for them. So it makes them want to climb higher and shape the world how they see fit. Louis Braille went completely blind by the time he was just 13. 2 years later, at 15, he invented the Braille alphabet, which helped millions of people be able to read even though they couldn't see the words. An alphabet that is still used all over the world to this very day. Now, Louis Braille wasn't completely delirious. He didn't bite off more than he could chew, but he didn't swing to the other extreme and did not even attempt to bite at all. He took risks. Big ones, yes, but they were always calculated ones. And this is what I wonder, what I hope for, every time I see disabled people make active and informed decisions about laws and policies, for example, that directly affect them. I think that this is the kind of future I want for my children and their children in turn. A future where more than one kind of beauty calmly jumps to people's minds when they hear the word. a future where everyone has a say in decisions that directly affect them, and most importantly, a future where beauty is defined not by your external appearance, but by the grit of your character, and therefore how you impact the world. And this kind of communication already made the world advance in massive zero-gravity moon steps. For example, 50 years ago, depression was a topic similar to disability, completely taboo, and those who had it were seen as an other, or were characterized solely by their disease and not by their potential. And while we have made massive progress in talking more openly about mental illness, you know what would be amazing? Talking that way about disability. The kind of conversations I always hear about it is very hushed and private, as if having a disability equated to some kind of massive scandal. And that not only impacts us, as we believe our disability somehow makes us inferior. I have heard those kinds of conversations numerous times. But that also impacts you, ladies and gentlemen, as it settles an unconscious bias in your brain. It says that since disability is a taboo topic, then surely they can't do anything extraordinary because otherwise everyone would be talking about it. But they aren't. So what's the big deal? The big deal is that some of the world's most beautiful works of art, most heartwarming gestures testifying the kindness of humanity are all done by disabled people. Frida Kahlo's paintings, particularly the Broken Column and the two Fridas, are beautiful because they convey the tormented, vibrant inner life of the artist. Her works were always classified as surrealist, but she constantly denied that label, saying that she was not painting some surreal fantasy, but an accurate depiction of her reality as she experienced it. Voila! Everyone's reality is different, but that doesn't make it any less beautiful. Think of it this way. Imposing Earth's population of 8 billion people to live today exactly how you did is impossible, because they just can't. Even if you manage to put them through your step-by-step routine, the perception will be different from person to person. So, by that same logic, beauty is uniquely inside each and every one of us, if we knew how to look for it and how to keep it. And this beauty I began to find in myself, I also gradually found in others, parts that they think are best hidden away. It turned my life around, realizing that I wasn't the only one with a picture-perfect life. It made me more aware of beauty and made me try harder to keep it in my life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a question for you. Did you, at any point in your life, detest some part about yourself, and in a small dose of optimism, a small mindset shift, change your entire worldview like it did with me? Good. Now, that very same part that you have just begun to like about yourself, I challenge you to find it in others. We are all cells in the organism of society, and if we fuel ourselves through kindness instead of hate, through understanding instead of rushed conclusions, then I can guarantee that in 10, 50, 100 years from now, we'll be standing on the stage of the future and say, it is statistically impossible for me to be here, but I am, and this is what I realized. Thank you.